each other. And the reason of this evening is for us to learn. We're going to discuss, we thought that it would be a good idea, as she came up with this initiative, being the person that's worked with people, and all of us, as you see, we work with different people in different capacities, and she was coming up with an initiative of saying, you guys and ourselves, we interact with people in so many ways. How can we share the skills and the knowledge that we have with our people in the community? And that's how she came up with this idea and tried to reach out to other people that can come together. And I think this probably will be the beginning, not the end. We're going to continue meeting and talk more, educating ourselves as we keep in this job, building the American dream and becoming more self-sufficient in terms of financial independence. So thank you again, Maggie, for doing this. I was very pleased when you reached out to me and want me to be part of this, so it's very happy. And tonight I'm going to be the moderator of this for these few couple hours that we're going to be together. Without any further delay, I just want to start by introducing the people who are going to help us through this conversation. To start, I was talking to one of my friends there that when we talk, if you want people to show up, there are two things, especially in America. Bring food. Second, tell them that you talk about money. They will show up.
Free money.
Yeah, free money. Yeah. So our speakers, I'll first ask you, each one of you, just in less than 2 or 3 minutes, to introduce about yourself, talk about the company you work with, and just one answer to the question that I'm going to ask you after that. But let's start by just introduce yourself and tell us the company that you work with. You have a microphone. Maybe we can start with you, Maggie.
Hello.
Put it on.
Hello. Hi. Hi. So I'm Magnifique Putoto. I'm a real estate agent, actually an associate broker now, but a realtor with eXp Realty. I've been doing it for a couple years now, about 2.5 years. And I'm a solo agent, but I have a network that reaches in different countries. We're in Puerto Rico, we're in Africa. So I have a very broad network to reach out to around the globe. But I really wanted to put this event together because I think that in our community, we don't have enough information to build a wealth that people who were born here have. They have a knowledge that they grew up with, that their parents grew up with, that they have homes, they're gifted homes for a wedding gift because the parents saved up. They had the knowledge and they knew about the programs to get their kids in a way that they're financially stable when they hit a certain age. And we don't have that. We weren't born here. We don't know those programs. And we don't know the resources or the people to reach out to get involved with those programs so that we can become financially stable and so that our kids don't have to worry when they're born. We have kids that are growing up here. We want them to be financially stable. We want them to be financially educated, and so that we can build that generational wealth and we don't have a gap. In our community, it's like we're hungry for it, but nobody has the time. We have the time to go to a party. We have the time to go here, but we don't want to go and sit down and listen to somebody talk and talk and talk. So that's why I think, like Didier said, we're not going to talk a lot. It's going to be, we want your input. What are you looking for? Are you looking to buy a home? Are you looking to buy an investment property? Are you scared because you don't know about your credit or debt or any of those things? We want to be able to be a resource for you, and we want you to know who we are and to be able to reach out to us anytime. Even if you didn't use me as your realtor, you can always call me. I'll answer any questions that you have. Anything that I can't answer, I have the resources to find the answers for you. So I hope you get whatever you need out of this event. And I hope it's going to be the beginning of something really great that's going to help us all build wealth as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, she introduced herself as Magnifique. I usually call her Maggie. Go ahead, next.
Hey everybody, so my name is Serge and I am a mortgage broker. I'm based in Arizona. My company's name is Clearview Capital. So we're licensed in Arizona, Texas, and Maine. I mainly work with the African community just because I'm from Rwanda, born and raised, till I was about 13, and then that's when I moved here. So I really have a passion for helping, like Magnifique said, our community learn about the products and things we have at our disposal. Because a lot of us are hard workers, we work really hard, but we don't have the information. So I truly, truly believe that it's my calling to help as many people own a home or get to that opportunity, and mainly in our community. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Claude. Yes, you're next.
Can I sit? Yes. Okay. Good evening. My name is Claude Roganje. I am a founder and executive director of Prosperity Man. First of all, I want to thank the organizer because she's giving me a free ride. These kind of events should be organized by us because we serve the community. But that's why I said it's a free ride, and I thank you for making this happen. So my organization does help people understand how to become financially stable or independent through steps of education. So we provide financial literacy, which is the number one step for anyone who's interested or willing to buy a home. So we always define our success as when someone reaches the American dream. So for folks who might be asking questions, what is the American dream? The American dream is when you can own your home, you can have retirement, you can send your kids to school. So you are reaching a level where you're most comfortable. So Prosperity Man does all that legwork before you can reach out to these people. Okay, what we do when we talk about financial literacy, we provide what we call a pre-purchase education. The pre-purchase allows you to build your credit, allows you to budget your money, allows you to save money that you don't have to get surprised when it's the last minute, when you don't have fees for closing costs or even down payment. That's where we came into play, and we can help you get to a level where you need to reach out to these people when you need to meet the broker or any real estate. You have to go through the steps, because the first question a real estate broker or an agent will ask you, how much can you qualify for? That's one question. Second, do you have good credit? Or do you even have a credit? So we are part of the process to lay you into the steps before you get into these people and reach your dream home. The third piece that I'm going to talk about down the road, not right now, when we continue this discussion, I will tell you the resources we have at Prosperity Man, just for you to attend our education, what you can get toward your down payment and what you can get toward reaching out your dream. So I hope that you're going to have a wonderful evening. You're going to learn something that you can use. I know some of you already own home. Maybe you did not go through these steps, but you're still hungry to invest or something else. So please feel free to ask any question so that we can explain and they can explain how we can continue to build wealth in this country. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Claude. So we see we have people with more experience. They're going to help us. We have lender. We have agent, real estate agent. We have financial educator. And we have one more, even though he's not sitting here. That's Jerry. Jerry, if you can just introduce yourself briefly to people so they can know what you do and what's the name of your company.
Hello, my name is Jerry Livingston. I own and operate On Point Home Inspection Service. So I'm part of the process. I've been working with Magnificate for about a year to a year and a half. And I manage her home inspections for her when she brings her clients to me once everyone's been approved or they accept their offer. So I'm just part of the process of between her and the mortgage broker and everyone else. So just here to answer any questions or any concerns for anybody that's in the process of buying a home. Just good to know. On Point Home Inspection Service. I do. It's on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have everyone here that we can ask. And we talked, Maggie and I discussed about how to make this event to more engaged. And we thought that instead of having people just talking, we'll talk in answering questions from all of us. So be prepared, all your questions need to be heard by them, and then we can discuss and contribute so that we leave here learning something. So we make more interactive than having just people talking. I will ask a question now next as my next step. Well, let me start with the lender. So we have someone representing the lender. And what I will ask you, probably on behalf of the other people that are here, is what do you look when someone is coming to be eligible for a loan? When someone is coming to apply for a loan, why do you look or expect that person to bring to you to be qualified or to be eligible for a loan? And we're talking about mortgage loan.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question. So there's a few steps that each one is important in different ways. So usually I try to explain to people that consistency in income is very, very important. Your credit score you can fix if it's got issues and you can get a down payment, but your income is very important, and I like to emphasize that because if you haven't worked for a year continuously, that's not something you can fix very quickly. You have to go back and show 2 years of a work history. So I tell people it's important that you've been working consistently for the last 2 years, preferably not jumping around with jobs. And if, let's say, you're working with 2 jobs, which a lot of people do here, which is great, it's important to show, again, consistency. So if you've been doing that for 2 years, that's always good. So I think income is easily the most important thing, continuous income.
Can you go on and give us 3 things that you look at that are very important?
Yes, definitely.
You mentioned income is first one.
Yeah.
So what is the second and third one?
Okay. So yeah, like I said, the first one's income, consistency in income for 2 years. The second thing is your credit score. So this is one thing that I think that a lot of us are not well versed on, or nobody really explains to us what's required. So, maintaining a good credit score, so making sure you're paying your bills on time, even if it's your $80 cable bill that you might forget to pay. I see a lot of people that have good income, are just good borrowers, but that one little bill can really mess up their credit score. So credit score is the second one, just because, again, it takes time to fix. So if your credit score goes down or dips, it's going to take at least 30 days to fix. And then the other thing is, of course, a down payment. The down payment isn't super important because there's different programs. There's programs where you might not even need to use a down payment, right? So we can go through down payment assistance programs where when you qualify, all you literally pay for is the appraisal, and then we'll get you the down payment and the closing costs. But again, that's not guaranteed, but there's ways we can work around that. And that's really the benefit of working with a broker like me. I work with about 6 lenders, so I'm able to shop around for you and figure out what lender is going to be able to help you. And so if one lender doesn't work out, I'm not going to say, hey, you know what? Sorry, I can't help you. I'm going to take your file and work on it with a different lender and figure out the best option for you. But again, so your income, your credit score, and your down payment those are probably the 3 most important things. Thank you.
Thank you. So keep learning. I'll move to Magnifique and ask as an agent. I have two questions that I want to ask you. The first question is, if I'm a home buyer, I'm looking to buy a house, should I come to you first to find a house before I go to the lender to look for being pre-qualified? I want to ask because I've seen people doing both, and I want to know, what is your preference? To show someone a house without even knowing whether it will be eligible and for how much for a loan, or has to come after?
So, I mean, either way, you can come to me first, or you can go to a lender, but I think this one's not working. So, either way, if you come to me first, or if you go to a lender first, if you come to me, I'm just going to send you to a lender. So if you have a lender that you know and you've worked with, it's easier that you go and get pre-approved, because there's a lot of people that have an idea of what they want and an idea of how much they can be pre-approved for, and they want to just straight away go shop for houses. And sometimes that idea is not realistic. So you can say that, you know, I think I can afford an $800,000 house, and then we've seen houses in that price range, and then you go to get pre-approved, and they say, well, actually, you're qualified for a $500,000 house. So all those houses we've just seen mean nothing. So, but I have the resources and the lenders at my disposal. So if you're looking for a lender, I'd be happy to help you get a lender, and then they can help you with the process of getting pre-approved, and then we can view houses so we have an idea. We know that this is your budget, this is what we can work with, these are the areas that you want. It's a lot easier.
Thank you for that. And my second question actually is this. Why people need to work with an agent? Why they can just go for a listing house and make an offer? And why they have to have their own agent versus going with the listing agent to represent them?
So that's a good question, especially with a lot of legal things going on with commissions. So to have an agent, it's kind of like if you're going to court and you try to represent yourself in court. You don't know all the legalities and everything that goes on in the court system. Your lawyer represents you so that you can have the best case scenario, because that's their job. The thing that they work on every day is the law. So it's like me. When I wake up, I'm in real estate. Before I'm going to bed, I'm in real estate. You know, I'm working for my clients, and my job is to know the right ways to do things and to represent you and your best interests so that someone's not taking advantage of you. If you're not well versed in real estate and you go try to work with a listing agent, they know certain loopholes that maybe, you know, you're going to end up buying a property and be stuck with a property that you didn't want or has a lot of issues because you didn't know certain things in a contract. You're not well versed in those contracts. I took a lot of classes in contracts. I took a lot of classes in showing properties, in looking for the damages and certain things that someone that's not in real estate every day probably wouldn't look for. You know, a lot of people go into a house and they're like, oh, this is beautiful, big bedrooms, you know, nice, you know, ensuite bathroom. They're not looking to see if, you know, the toilet is working. They're not looking to see if the plumbing is where it's supposed to be. And that's my job. My job is to represent you so that you get the best deal, you get the best property, and your money, which is a very big investment that you're making, is going towards something that's going to be profitable for you or something that's going to be lasting for you and your family.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. One thing, if you can just speak further on the difference between buyer's agent and a listing agent, because sometimes we get confused on both, and we think that we can go either way. So we want to see, you tell us the difference between the two, and why, as a buyer, I need to go seek for a buyer's agent, not the other one who is representing the seller.
Yeah. So we have a lot of ethics that we have to follow in real estate, and they make you take these classes a lot. And my fiduciary responsibility is to my client. So there are certain things that a listing agent that's representing the seller of a home that you're trying to buy does not have to tell you. They don't have to reveal it to you. So if you have a buyer's agent, it's my job and my duty, legal responsibility, to make sure that you have every single piece of information on that home before you make a purchase, because they're not representing you. They care if their client is happy. They care if they get a deal with you, but their responsibility is to their client, not to you.
Thank you. Thank you for making that clear. Yeah. So moving on, I know we're gonna. Someone has a question just related to that. It's you, Felix, or maybe later we're gonna give to the audience also with other questions. Moving on a little bit, I want to move to Claude. We heard about the importance of credit score. I want Claude to speak a little bit on how do we build a credit score. Can I get a credit score up to where the lender wants in 3 months or in 1 month? We hear that on YouTube. You can get your credit score up in 1 week or 2 weeks. What it takes to build up a good credit score that the lender will accept?
So before I answer that question, I'll go back to the question you asked these two people and how they answer them. Let me say that they live their own world, and I live my own. Because I'm an educator, their businesses, they just want you to get the final product. But if I tell you the truth, for many years, I took 20 hours of how to be a homeowners educator. 20 hours. I didn't even get it. Because the question I was asking myself, what is the difference between a broker, an agent, and so on? A seller, a buyer. So these people live their own world. That's why you cannot go to them before you pass through an educator to help you understand the processes that you need to get into. You heard the first thing they ask you is money. The second thing they need from you is credit. The third thing they ask you is your savings, basically the down payment. So you can't get all that from them. But you need to be prepared before you go to see these people. That's where we come into play. So asking a question about how to build a credit score, again, it's not even number one priority. The number one priority is an income. How do you get an income? You can have an income, but if you don't have enough income to help you save money for your down payment, that income is still not sufficient. So you're not going to even talk about the language of these people. You can't even talk the language of an agent unless you have a pre-qualified paper that shows your income is sufficient for XYZ amount that you can buy a house. So what we teach is to dream a home, think about what you want to accomplish. And number one thing that you need to think about is your goal. What am I going to achieve? And then do I have the resources to get there? Do you understand? So what is your goal? Is your goal buying a home? What is the price tag for that house that you're looking for, or whatever dream home that you're trying to accomplish? So those are the first step. So once you get there, then you look into your budget and say, do I have enough income? Can I increase my income first? Again, you're talking their language. If you don't have enough income, then that's where you go and do your second job or third job or any business so that you can increase your income to be able to save up. So when you start budgeting, you have already set a goal that you need to save money for. And then that money will be used for down payment, for closing costs. And again, you have sufficient income to go to a broker and say, I need to buy a house. Don't wake up overnight and say, I need to go buy a house. So it's a process. So to the question Didier is asking, again, you heard what they said. I'm not here to contradict what they're saying, but those are things they ask. They can say, oh, we can fix your credit score in 30 days or 3 months. That's not practically, most of the time, possible. If you do not have, let's say you come from Africa. You started your first job. You do not have any credit whatsoever. No credit. How are you going to build a credit in 3 months or even less? So to build a credit, it starts with the first thing that first, of course, you have an income. You go to your financial institution. You get what we call a secured credit card. Because the banker, keep in mind, a mortgage, a loan, a credit card, anything you're going to use is somebody else's money, not your money. So they need to be able to trust you, and they need to be able to count on you that you're going to pay back. So what they need to do, what you need to do is you need to say, okay, I'm going to build my credit. So start with a secure credit card at your bank and say, what is a secure credit card? A secure credit card is actually your own money that you put down payment at the bank. They give you a credit card which has the value of the money you put down. So that because they don't trust you, because you don't have any record. So once you have that, and then you start paying a little bit at the time, they can come back and say, we're going to give you now a credit card, not any longer a secure credit card, so we can trust you so you can start building a credit. But you have to be able to make a payment. Otherwise, he mentioned something also very important, which is even the utilities that you pay. If you don't have a credit card, if you don't have a secure credit card, you can pay your bills on time. The number one piece that affects your credit score is a payment. Do you pay your bills on the time? If you don't, how can I, as a lender, trust you that you're going to pay a 30-year mortgage on time and pay the money back that you owe? So payments, pay your bills on time, helps your credit score. Can you really do this in 3 months and then think that you have a good credit score? The answer is maybe, but I will say it takes at least a minimum of 6 months to build a good credit score so that you can. That's why you don't start with the lender. You go to the lender and the broker agent once you already have the knowledge and the education and you said, I'm ready to go. So sorry that I took so long to explain. That's why I said this is my show, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing anyway.
Yep, you show that you're an educator. Thank you, Claude, and thank you everyone for answering those questions. A follow-up question, Claude. When it comes to two things, you touched on it a little bit in terms of amounts of paying your bills on time, regardless of the amount. Because I've seen in my own experience, $10 limiting someone getting a loan for a house. Qualified, good income, good down payment, but it messes up on his credit score. There is a missing payment that's been on his credit report for a long time, which is like $10. But he can't get a loan. So how those little things that we usually don't care much could affect us when it comes to get a loan to make a bigger investment that we want to make. The second, I want to ask you if you can speak about is how, for some of us who have messed up with our credits, how can we, is that the end, or should we, there is still a chance for us to go and correct and go back on track?
So I don't think this is, for folks who are interested in more detail of this kind of education, please go to prosperitymaine.org and register for a class, because there is a whole class, free class, which talks about all this education. You took a class, so you're just making fun. So
no, he was asking is free regardless of income.
It is a free. To the question that he's asking, a $10 late payment can affect your credit score and damage your credit score for a very long time. You know how long it stays on your credit history? 7 years. So that's painful. And when your credit score, credit score range from 350 to 850, 300 to 850. And there is Credit Karma, there is other method of credit score, but the most accepted at the bank are the three major credit bureau, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So those are the ones that they look mostly. If you have, I know the mortgage lender is here, if your credit score is less than 620, you might not even get a mortgage. So there is a number that is a threshold. Am I correct? Yeah. Right. So you need to maximize your credit. They might give you a loan if you have a 630, 650. But again, it's going to cost you more money because there is a trust issue there. Can this person be trustworthy to pay the mortgage so that I can trust? Guess what? 30-year mortgage, even if you have a 0.5% difference, if I have a 5% interest and you have a 5.5%, it makes a huge difference in terms of payment. You own a loan for that long. He asked the second question, is it over if you have a bad credit? No. No. You can still go back to the class. Don't get by people who say, no credit, bad credit, just come in. We're going to get... Those are the people sometimes who tricks you because they want to get a commission to sell you something. And then at the end, you are foreclosed because you can't pay it. You can't afford it. Your mortgage payment, your income to your mortgage should not be more than 30 to 35% of your income. But I know, based on the statistics that we have here, I'm going beyond a little bit, people are paying with a 50-plus mortgage on their income, meaning they are paying 50% of their income toward the mortgage. Is it really that sustainable? No. How much things do? So go back and get a little bit of education. Learn what you need. Improve your credit score. How do you improve your credit score when you have already damaged? Pay your bills on time. After a 6 month when you're paying your bills on time, and it's trying to figure out what you reduce a little bit your credit card where you're maxed out, and then try to build up again from where you were supposed to be. That will help you. Again, remember, the higher your credit score is, the better, the lower the amount you can borrow for the interest rate they can charge you will be, meaning a lower payment on your mortgage. You don't want to pay more money. I used to teach the class. I don't teach anymore. Then someone who borrows money with 5% interest and someone who don't have a credit, and then they charge him 17%. You know they can charge you up to 30%. A lender can say, I'm going to take a risk on you. So I will ask you a high amount. If you want to, you can. But again, that's the money you are giving away. Try to figure out how, find a coach. That's where we come into play, financial counselor, housing coach, or whatever we call it, the names are, to be able to help you build your credit so that you don't end up actually wasting the money.
Thank you again, Claude. Just keeping on a conversation, I know I'm going to pass to the audience so that they can ask also more questions. But before, I want to ask one more question. I know someone get qualified, then goes to the agent. The agent start looking the house for that person based on his wish list, and then find the house and they make an offer and they get into under contract. Then after the agent say, well, I would recommend you to do the home general inspection. And this question I'm going to ask actually Jerry to speak about it. Why do we need to have a house inspected before we close? The lender doesn't ask us to do that. And I'm going to pay you to do it. Why do I need to pay you to do the inspection? I already love the house and I've already been under contract. I can just wait for the appraisal to be done and then get closing and then I go into my house. Would you mind speak a little bit about the importance of general inspection?
Hello. Okay. What I always suggest is that you do get an inspection, because when you see a house, you just see the general layout. What I look for when I go into a house are issues, which is most important, because with those issues that I find, that would add more money out of your pocket beyond what you're paying for the house that needs to be repaired. Because if it goes unnoticed before you close, you lose your leverage to add that into your closing costs. They may cover your closing costs. They may give you a credit towards closing costs and things such as that. So I'm looking for issues. Not that I'm not an alarmist. I go into a house and I treat it like I was moving my own family in. So I'm looking at, what's the age of the heating system? What's the age of the roof? These are all larger, expensive items in a home. Windows. And then I'm looking at ways on how I can show my client these and provide value, because that's what the value of having a home inspection is. Because these are things you wouldn't see normally, or you wouldn't be looking for, because that's not what you do. When you look at a home, you're excited, you're overjoyed, and you're thinking, I can finally move my family into a house because I've been in an apartment for 10 years. I'm looking at how this is going to best suit you moving forward, because usually when you move into a house, it's a 20 to 30-year ordeal. I got to start thinking ahead 10 years, 15 years down the road, because I'm trying to add value to you and your family. Not, what Claude was saying earlier, sometimes when you run into problems and you don't expect it, and say you paid at the top of the market, like now, say the interest rates are really high, and you're paying at the top of the market, and now you have to go out and repair a roof that may be $8,500 to $10,000, or a heating system that might be roughly about the same or more. And prices get higher, it seems like, as inflation gets higher, because everyone wants more money to cover their difference in inflation. You know what I mean? As far as contracting services, heating contractors and plumbers and so forth, electricians. So that's my job, to go in there and let you know that stuff, so you're aware. Your broker can negotiate on your behalf before you close on the house. So it gives you. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think we got it, why we need that. And I was just related that to, this is a big purchase, because it's not buying a car. I'll say, well, when I buy a car, I don't need to inspect it. I can look it by myself and then like it and drive it, and that's it. But this is a big purchase, and we are not expert in it. So we need someone who has the expertise to come and help us and tell us what we're getting into. Someone has a question.
My question is, when the house is new, you still have inspection?
Just because a house is new doesn't mean that it's been properly done, even though sometimes it's been. The city has to come in. They have their own inspectors. They'll sign off on the house to make sure it's occupied, or it's livable. They can move in. But there are things that I'm looking for. So like when I still treat a brand new house like I would any house. I still look at it the same way, because there's certain things, there's corners that get cut even when new construction happens. So you can't always trust it.
Yes, Felix. And then Gapap.
I don't need a microphone.
I think some people over there want to hear.
I'm not used to it. So, follow-up question. I know we have an agent over there. Sometimes the agent, they'll give you an advice. They will tell you, if you do the inspection for this house, you're not gonna get it. At the end, you already paid the money for the commission. After 1 month, there's a problem. Why the agents do that? So that means they need the money. Second question goes to Magnifique. Last time, I think it was last year, me again on the other side with another lender. Now we have another one. And then you know what happened with the other one. So do we have confidence with this one After we give the information to the other one, he left with all our information. Now we have a new one. So where's the guarantee that this one is gonna keep our information? Because we're not gonna keep giving the information. So we need, no. Yes, confidentiality on those, because she knows we've been talking about it. So now we have a new one. The last question goes to, I think, Serge. Why, sometime if I ask the bank or the lender to give me money, I need the 500,000. When I go with the Magnifique, I find the house is 700,000. When I go back there, oh, they say, okay, we'll give you more money. Why they didn't give me that 700,000? They give me for the second time, because they want to make a business or what?
Okay. I think everyone got his question, but I want to clarify the question they asked about the inspection, Jerry. There are two parts of it. One is related to the current market, where it's more competitive, where some offers, they waive inspection. So they close their eyes and they buy as is. So because the agent told them, if you put inspection as a condition, you're not going to get the offer. So the other part is that you make an offer subject to an inspection, you are under contract, you run the inspection, you identify things that are significant, and then you ask your agent, go and negotiate with these things, need to be fixed before we close, or give me a credit so I can fix them later. And then the agent said, well, if we do that, you're going to lose the house.
So what I would say at that, there are different cycles in the real estate cycle. So it was a seller's market at that time that you were getting that explanation, which is very 100% true. If you were trying to do an inspection, and because here's the thing, a lot of these people own this house, they own the house outright, so they don't have any debt on it. They can hold out and wait for as many buyers as they want. So they were trying to create a buyer frenzy by having more offers come in. So as long as they had more offers coming in, they didn't like what you had to offer, and you wanted me to turn around and give you back $10,000 after I'm asking for more, I'm going to put you in the back of the line, because I can. And as far as the realtors, they were being honest with you that if you did at that time, during that time period, COVID and beyond, tried to do an inspection, they were taking deals that were cash deals and close in 10 days. Now, when you do a loan, if you don't have the cash, it normally, 60 to 90 days, plus or minus. Plus, they're waiting for their money. They can get cash, cold hard cash, in 10 days. So you tell me what deal you're going to take. Let's be realistic. I'm not saying it's ideal, but this is how people would counteract that. So they were going through that. And it was hurting my business, and I understand that, but that's part of life. But people would come to me after the fact, after they closed on the home. Going forward, they still need to know what's going wrong with the home. So I would come in and give them that advice moving forward. So they may need a new heating system, they may need a new roof, maybe even in 5 years or 10 years, but at least they're ahead of the game. They can start saving. So what I always tell people when I do an inspection, put together a list of stuff. You don't have to fix everything tomorrow, okay? Order a priority, get the budget together, get a contractor in there, get a price, get an estimate, stock it away, save some money, budget it, get that one taken care of, knock it off the list, move on to the next one. It's a 20, 30-year process, you know what I mean? Hopefully you're not looking to just buy the house and be out in the next year, so you got time to work with. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it means that when you're doing inspection, it's not only for negotiation purposes, it's only for keeping as a record for future, because you might need to address those issues after you buy the house. There was one question to Magnifique one, which was, how are we going to trust Serge now? And then you're going to pass that to Serge to answer also the last question, which was about being qualified for less once and then come back and you get qualified for more. Then we move on.
So I know that there was a lender that a lot of us were working with, he gave us a lot of bumps. So the thing is, I can recommend who I'm working with because I have a good experience with them. So once I don't have a good experience and I hear that they're doing something they shouldn't, I will always go back and tell my clients, listen, we need to go somewhere else. It's your decision, it's your home buying process, but this is the information that I have on this lender. This is what's happening. Sometimes people get big eyes because they don't have everything in order, but a lender will give them, or a mortgage broker will give them, a very high amount. So they get excited and they don't worry about the interest rate and they don't worry about the down payment. They just said, okay, I can get a $700,000 house. So a lot of people were coming to me with pre-approvals from that person. And so, I was working with them on the good faith. But in this kind of business, there are a lot of realtors and there are a lot of lenders and a lot of mortgage brokers that you can work with. So it's kind of, we're going by experience. Once the experience sours with someone, I work hard to try to make relationships with other people that are going to be able to help you guys and to benefit you. And Serge has been a great asset. He works very well with the clients that we've worked with together. He's very diligent. He wants to make sure that you understand everything. Because, a lot of mortgage brokers, when you go meet them, or bankers, they talk a lot and they talk fast. So they're sending you multiple emails and documents and you're signing and you don't even know what you're signing. So Serge is not going to let you sign something you don't understand. And a lot of the times, I'm translating or, trying to get you guys to understand what someone else is saying. Serge is his own translator. So I think that comes in handy where he's someone in our community that understands what we're looking for and wants to help us grow and wants to help us build. And he's also someone that I've been working with and I trust him. I have good faith in him. So if something goes wrong, we'll switch, but I don't have any hesitation or prediction. Don't worry.
Thank you.
So the question was, why do they get qualified for a certain amount and the second time that changes? Is that correct?
Yes, and it can change on both sides. It can be higher or can be less.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that as a buyer you don't see that as a mortgage broker I get to see, and my hope is that I explain it so that you know that if you get qualified for $500,000, again, this is the real estate market. Things change. Interest rates change. So that's really the biggest thing. Or, I guess in that situation, there's a few things that could happen, right? So you can get qualified for a $500,000 house, then for some reason the interest rates go up, and now what Claude was talking about, which is called your debt to income ratio. So now your debt to income ratio goes high, and for example, with FHA loans, they require a maximum of no more than 47%. So if the interest rate goes up and now the loan costs more and your debt to income ratio is higher, then you don't even qualify. It's not about whether we can bring down the purchase price or not. So then in a situation like that, I'll approach you and say, hey, interest rates have gotten a little worse. We're gonna have to bring down your purchase price. Or your credit score gets all messed up. If we do a soft pull in the beginning, because a lot of times I'll tell clients, I'm not going to do a hard pull because that's going to affect your credit score. So there's two types of pulls. There's a hard pull, which gives us a report of all your 3 credit scores, and then there's one soft pull, which just shows us one report, which doesn't affect your credit score right then and there. So if we do a soft pull in the beginning, and then we have to do a hard pull at the time you are under contract and your credit score is dropped, now your pricing is different. If I qualified you for a 4% interest rate, you might jump up to 4.5% or 5%. So it's important that we understand that when you're pre-approved for a home, that's based on that day's market. So interest rates change every day. They change 3 times a day. So that's why we also have to leave room for, when I pre-qualify someone, I don't qualify you to the maximum extent. I leave room for the market to adjust. So if interest rates go up, I know if I qualified you for 600,000, that we're still going to be fine. And so I think that's usually what happens. And it's not, I would hope that it's not just the mortgage lender trying to change what you're approved for, but it's to understand that the market changes.
So I want to just make a comment on what he just said, Serge. There is a pre-qualification and there is a qualification and there is all that linguistic use of words or whatever. So just as you are pre-qualified does not mean you are qualified, because they will check on you, they will check on your income just like a day before you get to close on your loan. Are you still in? Have you taken more credit card, which has made your credit score to drop? So that's why getting the information, being so disciplined when you are in our process is so critical.
Yeah. Serge, would you mind, you talk about one side regarding how you can be qualified for more, then it dropped down because of many changes that you explained. What about the other side around? Because someone asks, what about someone who gets qualified for less amount, and then when he goes back, that amount gets increased? What will be the factors that will make that decision change?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to what I said. So again, interest rates could drop, or as Magnifique as the realtor, she could negotiate what we call seller concessions or seller credits. And if the seller is able to give them the seller credits, then now we can buy down the rate and they qualify for more. But usually more often than not is if interest rates drop, now we have more room to work again with your debt to income ratio, and so then we can possibly qualify you for more. Or again, your credit score improves. If it improves during the process, I'll let you know, and then we're going to reprice your interest rate and hopefully just get you a better interest rate, or say, hey, do you want to buy a more expensive house? So yeah, those are the two scenarios.
Yep.
Do you guys understand debt to income ratio? Does everybody understand that? Okay.
Yeah. So I want to just emphasize on one thing that you say, Serge, on even Claude mentioned that between the time you are qualified or the time you are under contract and you are in underwriting process, which is, again, I understand that as a loan officer, they usually go upfront based on what you give them. They ask you, we know each other. They ask you, how many income do you have? Oh, I do have 2. I work 2 jobs. Maybe you work 3. How long have you been working with those employers? Oh, I think more than 2 years. Okay. With good faith, he will accept, and based on that, they will pre-qualify you. When it comes now, you're under contract. Then you go through a real underwriting process. They are going now to check, and they call your employer and they verify everything. If the information that they pull is different than the information you gave before, that's where things start to become difficult for you. That's one thing we need to make clear. Then I've heard people say, well, they changed. They already qualified me for X amount. Now they're changing. They say I'm no longer qualified. It's because the information you gave them is different than the information that they're finding after. So be careful when you give them information. Don't guess. Go and find them the right information that will not change, so they can check them up front. The other thing, between the time where you start applying for the loan to the end of closing, please don't go to take other debts. Don't go to see a discount in the store they're suggesting you a new credit card, and you take it. You are messing up things already. So those are the things I want to emphasize just to make sure we understand. Because that process, if you change, easily may affect you. So wait until you close, then you can do whatever you want. But you want to say something?
I guess I don't want to say anything, but I want to ask some questions. I thank you so much, the presenters. Really, I'm really happy for what the community is getting now, that we are interested in what we are doing, especially the inspection too. Everybody needs you, and I'm sure you must be getting enough money because of the inspection. So my question is, now I'm moving really from what we've been talking to investment. What's the difference between buying the first home and buying more than one home? That's what I want to ask and whatever.
Yeah, let me take on, and then they're going to take on. I know we were going to get there. When it comes to investment. Sure.
I had to ask that question, but because he asked, I'll add it that way you can answer together. How long do you need between buying a first home and a second home? And do you need to make all those like like a regular home, or you can also make it an investment home and still be qualified easily like a regular home? I don't know if my question makes sense. Okay.
So his question, Serge, when you answer, after Claude, or Claude or Serge, when you're answering it, he's asking, can you make your investment home and apply for a loan as your first or your residential home where you're going to live in? Because the interest rate is different. So he want to ask that if it's possible, even though it's my investment home, approach you as a lender and apply as my primary residence.
Okay. I will let Serge and who maybe can answer the most difficult question on that. But let me say this. Anyone who qualify, again, remember it's a qualification to a second home, you can buy it. And what are the lender looking for? They're going to answer most of that, but they're looking to see whether you are able to cover the mortgage in case that investment you're purchasing or your tenant who is in a second home is not able to pay. Again, remember, that goes back to the income. Can you afford covering the mortgage in case your tenant is not able to pay his bills or her bills? The second thing that you need to be prepared on investment is a down payment. The down payment requirements is about 20% about on your investment home versus any lower percentage when you are doing your first residential home. So in that case, you could be, I think he mentioned that, you could have a lender who is looking in rural area, like outside downtown Westbrook. You could find a rural development mortgage to 0%. Again, I'm talking about historical, 5%. Right now, FHA and others, they are 8% or even more. So you can get that. But when it comes to down payment that you need to be able to provide, it's always 20%. So let me say this, or maybe I can save that, or when it comes to, again, investment, you don't get a lot of assistance, like some of the things I can share, resources that Prosperity Man and Main State Housing provide when you're buying your first home versus when you're buying your second home. Just keep that in mind. And I will go back to those folks who are buying a first home and the resources that we have that can help them toward their closing cost.
Thank you. So I'm going to go over the general requirements for buying your second home, and then also tips, or what we call house hacking, to be able to buy a second house without some of the hindrances that we're able to see. So, Yeah, can you hear me? There we go. Okay, sorry. So yeah, generally, like he said, you're required to pay 20% down if you're not going to live in that house. So a lot of times what I tell people is there's two options. So you can buy your first house, which usually the requirement's 3.5% down. And then what you can do, what we call house hacking, is you can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to rent my first house. I'm going to move into the second house. So now when we qualify you, we will only require you to put down 3.5% down for the second house, but we're also going to look at the market rent for the first house, and we will use that potential rent income to qualify you for the home. And so that's one way. There's a new program now, especially I think this is very important in Maine, because you guys have a lot of multifamily houses, duplexes. There's not a lot of that in Arizona and Texas. So basically what you can do is you can buy a duplex, or let's say a triplex, and put 3.5% down. Between 3.5% and 5%, you live in one unit and then show that you can rent the other units. And I think that's honestly one of the best programs to take advantage of, because now if you move, you're kind of doing the house hacking times 5, because if you move out of that duplex, you rent out the whole place, go get another duplex, do the same thing, rinse and repeat. Soon, before you know it, 5 years down the line, you got 5, 6 properties. But the only caveat to that is if you're moving from your first house, you have to make sure that you're not moving into something smaller, because the bank looks at it and says, well, wait a minute, this does not make any sense. Yeah, why would someone with 2, 3 kids in a 2,500 square foot home, why are they going to a 1,600 square foot home? So that's usually important. So the other trick to that is to make sure that when you're upgrading, you know, it's smart for your first house not to just get something massive. Because let's say you get a 4,000 square foot home, it's going to be hard to get something else, because they're going to say, well, this person's going from 4,000 square feet to 3,000. So if you do everything gradually and get, you know, you can really get a lot of properties. So that's, I guess, one way to not pay 20% down. But generally speaking, lenders require you to pay 20% down for your investment home.
I want to add something, a mistake that I made, that please do not make that mistake, especially when it comes to investment. Remember, if you buy your second home for investment, if you did not live in that home, that's an investment business home. So when you sell it, what will happen, Didier? You pay capital gain. You pay taxes on all the profit that you earned on the house, because you never lived into that home for more than 2 years. So please don't make that mistake. So if you want to sell it to upgrade, as Serge said, please do so by not taking the money from the sale of your first home, transfer to a third party, buy another building which is greater than this. You can't do the other way around. You can't buy a small and they keep some money in the pocket. You need to, and you can also put your money in the pocket, then go buy it. So that is something that, because I'm an educator and I learned a lesson, I don't want to keep that as a secret so that somebody else can be affected. I want to really say it loud so that not only that I'm an educator, I'm also a pastor. So I need to help you on the spiritual side to be able to help you understand. Yes, it's a good stuff to have an investment. It's a good stuff to sell it. But keep in mind that something might happen and then you lose through the taxes you're going to pay or your profit you have gained in that investment.
Thank you. Michelle, I'm going to give you... Yes.
Did that happen to you?
Yes, we'll ask you. I'll just give you to
You said it's a lesson you learned. Did it happen to you?
Yes.
As an educator?
So let me
Also as a pastor?
No,
That
Michelle.
was a joke. That was a joke. You don't need to answer that question.
Oh.
It was a joke. Let's go with another question here.
So,
Teaching by experience is good.
Oh yeah.
I didn't understand quite well where we was explaining. You didn't live in the home you were talking
You're
about.
asking me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the first question.
Yes.
And then the second question goes to the inspector. So if you have a contract with the builder, and then is it advised to have inspection done when the building is done, and you trying to see if all the contracts you have with the person did everything that is in the contract, or everything is done the way you is supposed to be there, like long-term stuff in the house? Because when we look at it, we look how it looks like. We don't know if everything that is in the house will last long.
The installation is
Do you want to answer your question first?
No, you already answered that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
You already answered that.
Oh, yes, I never lived into that home. And let me also answer this a little bit. The reason why some of these mistakes happen is because of the unknown. Because I thought I can sell it and then buy another one, but there is a time limit to it. You have a limitation. So if you don't do that within a certain month, and then you go over that threshold, it's a catch-22. So you have to be able to sell and buy another property within 45 days. I think it's a 45, after 6 months, yes. And in the market that we had, it was very hard. So and the second, I didn't even know that you have to keep the money from your first investment into the third party rather than keeping in your own account. So those are things that I learned through the process that were surprise to me, and that I didn't want anybody else to be surprised.
so for my end, you talking about new construction build? Well, new construction is handled differently in a bank. They do 4 phases. So they'll have their own inspector come in, 25% of the job's done, and do inspection, take pictures, report, and then they'll pay out 25% to the builder. And then when the next phase is done, it's at 50%, they'll come in and take pictures. It has to be 50% complete in order to get 50% of the money of what they owed to the building, the house. Same thing at 75%. And then they'll do a final payment the fourth quarter, the fourth phase. And then it's at the discretion of the homeowner if they want to do an inspection. I strongly suggest to do it because here's the thing. I worked for a builder before I became a home inspector. And the thing is there's always checklists, punch lists that need to get completed of stuff, even after they've been paid their 100%. That needs to get completed, because if not, they leave. It's hard to get them to come back and get stuff done, and then you're left holding the bag. So that's why I call them a pre-inspection, and I'll go through and start looking at stuff. So if there's like chip paint and stuff, I'll treat it more like a HUD inspection, because they're pickier on their loans as far as you can't have scraped paint, can't have chipped paint. Everything needs to be pretty well complete, move-in ready, safe. So, and then what was the other thing you said? The renovation stuff? Yeah. Renovations, well, with renovations, depending on how you negotiate it, but you would have to either have someone there that's knowledgeable about what's going on and what's being done, because once they close the walls up, I can't really do any inspection on what's behind the walls. Like, I think so, but I mean, it's totally up to you. It's a preference of the homeowner. You know what I mean? So, and it's not even something that you need to have an inspector do unless the bank's requiring you to, based on the loan. If it's a personal, you don't have to, but it's suggested. So it's not something you have to do, but if you don't know what's going on, it's probably best to have someone that does. You know, but I wouldn't push myself on anybody. But again, I think it's peace of mind, especially when you're spending $20,000 to $50,000. You're trying to increase value of your home, so you want it to go up, not backwards. So, did I answer your question?
Can I say something really quick on the inspection part?
Sure.
So it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, that, you know, we don't recommend that you're going to go work by yourself and go to a listing agent. You're going to have a buyer's agent. Jerry works for you. A lot of people look at the appraisal as, oh, I'm getting it anyway, the bank. The people that are doing the appraisal work for the bank. Jerry is going to represent you in your best interest. So you have to just remember that, and, like, you know, even if you have a contract, I know we're in a lot of markets where we're not doing inspections, that person represents the bank in the bank's best interest.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle, you have a question.
So I just want to ask a few questions to each one of you. Let me start with Claude. Claude, you know, many of us try to, I think, thinking that the things we do are good when they are not any good. So many people try to get more credit cards. One credit card, two credit card, four. So I know some people even have 7 credit cards. So is it when you're trying to build a credit score, is it recommended or advised to have many credit cards, less credit cards? How many are recommended at least? That's a question number one to Claude. The other question I want to ask the mortgage lender, the mortgage broker. So is sometimes most of the people here pretty much have a residential home where they live. So they're thinking about investment properties. Some of the options are investing out of state. Some of the options are, I live in Maine, but I can still invest in New Hampshire or Massachusetts or Arizona, where you will. Are they the same conditions as if I'm buying investment property here, or since I'm not living in that state? Are conditions different than a local person? If they're different, would you advise somebody to buy out of the state where they live, if it's feasible? So the other thing I would want to ask you, I'm not sure if you're noting my question. So the other thing is buying a home that's already existing versus buying a land and construct the land. I know, let's say I'm going to buy a land, come to you as a mortgage broker. I would like to buy a land. Then after I can build on this land. So is more loan on buying a land looked at differently as a mortgage to buy a property that was already there, or the conditions are the same? So my last question to you is, if I have already an investment property or a residential home that has accrued some value, and thinking about using the value for that property can help me to invest, how does that work? And what's that world of equity and using it in another investment, or how does it work? Is it really feasible? I got some complications when I was trying to use that because some pushback. So my last question to Magnifique.
How many questions you gonna ask?
To him, but I have a question to Magnifique.
Come here.
Now I have a question to Magnifique, the last one. So I'm not going to go to another one. Magnifique. So, so Magnifique. Are we right now buyer's market or seller's market? Should you advise people right now to buy homes? Is it a right time? Is it a buyer's market or seller's market? Thank you.
They're all good questions, by the way.
That is a very good question. Someone called me a while ago, over 10 years ago, when I was starting Prosperity Man, and said, hey, you advised me to get a credit card so that I can build my credit history. Now it's all messed up. I said, how so? She said, my credit score has gone down, my bills are up. So I immediately understood that this person has maxed out the credit limit. Second, this person is not paying her credit on her bills on time. And when you don't pay your bills on time, you increase your balances, and your late fees affects your credit. So you gotta be careful on what you do when you're trying to build a credit. And the question you ask, most of the time they don't come with how many credit cards they should have in order to build a credit, but they will say, how much amount should I spend on my my credit card to help my build my credit history? The number of credit cards should not help to build a credit at all. The payments you make and how quick you make a payment. Guess what? You can have a credit card which has a 20% interest rate, and as long as you pay your bills on time, you pay zero on your interest. So what works to build your credit, it's not the number of credit cards, it's not the amount, is how do you pay on time so that you can build a trust to these guys. They'll look at that in history and say, this is a guy who's trustworthy. That's when you actually see so many requests to you and trying to give you more credit cards because they want to now get your money. If you're smart enough, keep where you are, and your credit will continue to increase, even if you have one credit card that you are paying on time. So again, a credit score does not only look at the credit card. Remember your hospital bills, remember your utility bills and the others. But the most important that they look into are the debt, which is a credit card, somebody's money, or car loan. So when you are getting a mortgage, they look into that because it's a major issue. So you're getting to have a couple $100,000 from somebody for 30 years. That's when they scrutinize you. You may wonder, how did I get a car loan and I can't get a mortgage? Because they look at the amount they're going to give you and how long you're going to keep that money for. Did I answer your question? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claude. I did remember that, I forgot your name, but you asked a question, about, when you buy your first house, when can you buy your second house or get out of it and buy the next one, right? So again, certain guidelines with, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the basically the bodies that govern what we do with lending and everything. So generally, I believe with FHA, you need to be in the house for 2 years. Conventional, it's 1 year. That's just basic guidelines. But there's also, the lender also understands that life happens. If you have a job in Portland, Maine, and you bought your house 2 months ago, and you get a job offer in Texas, and you need to move there, they understand that you might not want to sell your house, right? So you want to put it on the market, rent it, and go buy a house there. So there's also some room there for them to look at the situation. They're not just very much like checking boxes. They're looking at your situation, seeing how credible it is. And so generally speaking, I'd say if you buy a house and you want to buy a second one as an investment, but you don't want to put 20% down, I'd say get in the house for 6 months, pay it on time. And then if you are able to, if you want to move into the second house, you can do that. I think 6 months is good because then, there's stability there and it just looks good with the underwriters. And I deal with underwriters every day, so I know what they want to see and what they don't want to see. So
but if you want to pay 20% anytime?
Yeah, if you want to pay 20%, you can buy 5 houses tomorrow. They don't mind. Yeah. So, but a lot of people are like, well, yeah, a lot of people are like, I'd rather save the money and put it in my pocket than put all that money down. And then to his question, the 3 questions, I'll do my best to remember, so correct me. So the first one was, if you live in Maine, the first one, the other one?
Yours?
Yeah, I finished there. We're done, yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, what's the other part?
So you bought it as primary, or you bought it as an investment? But you never lived in it.
It's an investment.
Yeah.
As primary. Okay.
Yeah. So first, I do want to mention something because we want to be careful to not be committing fraud because there's also mortgage fraud. So technically, if you say you're going to live in a house, you need to be moving into that house within 60 days. Now, you can move into the house within 60 days and something happens and you have to move out. That's fine. So let's be very clear on that and make sure no one gets in trouble, right? But if you move into
I think that's the part that he wanted to hear, and I think
is that what
satisfied.
You wanted to hear?
He's satisfied.
Does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Cool, yeah, we got to make sure. Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then on to his question, I believe you asked that if you have a house here and you don't want to buy your second house in the state that you're currently residing in, and you want to buy a house in a different state, what are the requirements, right? So there's different scenarios, right? I've seen it where someone that's self-employed generally is like, hey, I want to buy a house in Texas, but I don't want to put 20% down. So you can either buy it as an investment where you put 15% down, or because they're self-employed, they can say, hey, you know what? My business is in Maine, but I can live in my house in Texas because I'm self-employed and I'm in control of my employment. But when it comes to somebody that's not self-employed, so you're a W-2 employee or something of that sort, then the lender will ask, well, you're buying a house in Texas, but you're employed in Maine. Can you show us that you'll be able to live in that house and still keep your job? So if you have to go to the office, it's probably going to be hard. Now, I've had borrowers that work remote from home. And it usually will require what's called an LOX, a letter of explanation, from the employer saying, hey, so-and-so their job is in Maine, but they can work from home in Texas. And in that situation, you're only going to put 3.5% down. So we're going to look at different scenarios, but make sure that it makes sense, But one way to not pay 20% down, again, is you could buy a house as a vacation home. I know it's 15% down, but it's better than 20%. So there's that option as well. And then to your second question, I believe was about buying land, right? So when you buy land, it's for sure it's looked at differently as opposed to like a home, a house that's there. Because you can either buy a house in, I don't know where, out in the middle of nowhere, or you can buy a house in a developed area. So the lender's going to look at the land that you're buying. Of course, we're going to appraise it, make sure that it's worth what you're trying to buy it for. But then they're also going to look at, like, what's the likelihood that you're going to have access to a road or the the septic tanks and plumbing and all that. Are you going to pay for all that? So we have to analyze all that, and then usually loans like that are a bit more complicated because it depends on where it's located. Because the lender's giving you money, they want to make sure that it's something feasible, and you're going to have to tell them what you're going to do with that kind of property. And then your third question was
home equity line of credit.
Equity. Okay, that's a great question. So we have programs that are called cash out refinances, where if, let's say, you bought a house, and it happened to me as well, and this is where I think there's beauty in real estate, where you can truly grow your generational wealth, create generational wealth, right? You bought your house, it's a primary residence, 3.5% down, and let's say you bought it for $400,000 and now it's worth $600,000. So what we're gonna do is we first need to appraise the house and make sure that it's worth that $600,000. And so once the appraiser comes in and says, hey, this house is worth $600,000, we can go ahead and refinance your whole loan and give you a higher loan amount, and give you cash to say, hey, you want, let's say, $40,000. Let's give you cash, which is basically your equity, and you can go buy another house. That's fairly simple, to be honest. The requirements are the same, income, good credit score. You don't need a down payment because you're just doing it's a lot quicker. But I'd be curious to talk later to understand what issues you had with, but I've done a lot of that, and generally speaking, the only issue is if a borrower thinks the house is worth a certain amount that the house is not worth. So ultimately, the appraisal tells us what we need to know.
Yeah,
thank you.
I want to add one more thing to your question about buying a land versus buying a building. So if the whole goal is to buy a land and build a home, so a builder may ask you to have a construction loan, which means from day one when they start building, you close on your mortgage. You start paying the mortgage before even the house is built because you took a construction loan. Also, a builder might say, I'm going to build a home. We're going to deal with you at the closing. I'm going to use my own money to build your home, but we're going to close at the end. So it depends on who you're using in that case. So there are two different things. Whether you're ready now, whether you're ready tomorrow, it depends on who you're building your home and how that can be. Does it make sense?
Okay. So before we take another question, Maggie has one question to answer, which is, is it now buyer's market or seller's market? It was seller's market yesterday, still seller's market?
So we had a really busy buyer's market deep in winter. And it seems to be when people are Christmas shopping, when people are spending a lot of money on the holidays, sellers have the power or sellers don't have the power because they don't have a lot of people. And we still have low inventory. But right now, as we're dipping into tax season and people are getting ready and getting hungry and, they're going out and they're thinking about their backyards and what to renovate and they're seeing other people's new houses, they're getting more motivated. So competition is going up and interest rates are going down, which is also motivating people to buy. So I say that every season is a buying season because I think that there's always an advantage to buying. There's always a way that you can see that even if interest rates are high now, competition is low. So you may get a better price on your home when interest rates are higher than when they're lower. And then after a year or two, you're going to refinance and get a lower rate on the same home. So the value of your house has gone up significantly, but you paid a lower amount, and now you're lowering your interest rate as well.
So it depends. Are you selling to buy another one? If you are selling your home to buy another one, remember you are selling your home, which was 3.5% or 3%, to go buy a home, which is 8%. That is questionable. But the biggest challenge here is the inventory. The inventory is driving everything. So if there are more buyers than the seller, that's economics metrics, so it drives the pricing up. But if at the high interest rate, very few people were able to afford even a medium income home, and then the sellers were looking to sell, and they were able to even lower a little bit the pricing compared to what I saw last year or the year before. Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Murakoze. Thank you. Ndashaka kubaza ikibazo Pastor Claude kirebana no kugurisha inzu ya investment. Niba ayo mafaranga ari itegeko kuyakoresha gusa kugura indi nzu cyangwa ushobora kuyakoresha mu kubaka wenda muri rent ufite.
So, Magnifique, did you understand what they said? Yeah. Okay. You won't visit? Okay. So, the whole chapter, the requirement is when you are investing, I believe, I could be wrong, it has to be you upgrade from your investment home to another home, which is an investment, yes. So you have to sell your home to buy another investment home, and that home has to have a price which is higher than the one you sold, or the same. Otherwise, if you're going to take some money out, it's not going to help. So it's not about, I'm going to buy another building, but I will keep some of the money for myself. It's not going to work that way. But Didier, can you help me there?
Sure.
Yeah, the answer is...
Even when I'm going to take the money and invest it in another investment property.
No.
That's your question. So this is how it works. They call it 1031 exchange.
Correct.
In taxes. The IRS allows, or the code allows, that you can transfer the value of one property that you have to the other one, that as long as the other one values more than what you just sold. And then
you don't pay a capital gain.
That gain goes deferred. It doesn't mean that you cancel it. You still pay it eventually. But it can be deferred, so you pay it in the future instead of paying it when you sell by transferring that. And the mechanic of doing that is what Claude didn't go through and then ended up by paying the gain. And that's why he was explaining you to avoid that. There is a way to work through that, the 1031 exchange. There are people who are qualified that you have to tell them when you sell, you have a timing to identify another property and to invest in that property with that money. If you follow the rules, yes, you'll defer through the 1031 exchange.
So Didier answered really well. So the question here, nkubwire muri wumva, kuvuga ngo nzayishure down the road, nzabanza aho bigeze, nzabanza uko meze, nimba ngurishije, byena nzoba meze ukundi kundu, nzoba meze neza. Ariko uyu munsi wayigurishije ukaja kugura yindi, ntabwo uri oblige, ntabwo bagusaba ngo wishura imisoro kuko amafaranga yakomereje hariya. This is exactly the same thing as the retirement history. If you ufite retirement ugakuramo amafaranga ukavuga ngo ndayaborowinze nzayishura, ihura borrowing ukayishura, nta musoro wishuramo, nta penalty wishuramo. Ariko uvuze ngo urayagumana bahita bagutaxinga iriya 10% yes. Ariko ubundi iyo uyishuye, you can just pay the fees that you borrowed, ariko ubundi ntayo bagucharginga. So the transfer is the key. That's one. Second is you have to have a qualified people who can help you with that. Sorry. Thank you.
So thank you for this time. So my question is directed to our mortgage officer. My question is, what you're doing, are you like provide the money to the people who do like doing the flipping houses? Do you do that program too, or is just home like finishing homes? That was just my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. So if I understand you correctly, is do I help people that are trying to flip homes get loans? Yes. So that's called hard money loans. So we actually do that as well. We have lenders that will lend you money for 6 months, 90 days, whatever the agreement is, and then knowing that you're going to flip the house, make profit. But those are usually interest only type loans. And when you come and we talk, I'll just try to advise you the best way I can, because they're also risky loans, right? So we have to make sure that you're doing it the right way, because the last thing I'd want to happen is that you get an interest-only loan that usually is like 2-3 years. You have to pay it in 2 to 3 years, and you're only paying interests only, and then you get into a situation that's not good. But yes, we do hard money loans. We also do what's called, just to kind of piggyback off of that, we also do what's called DSCR loans. So sometimes we have people that are self-employed, and maybe they've been self-employed for less than 2 years, right? So the requirement usually when you're self-employed is you need to show that you've been self-employed for 2 years consistently and that your income is increasing. But let's say if you've been in business for a year and a half, we can do bank statement loans where we look at your deposits every month, and then we can use those as income. So that's kind of another resource as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know we're getting to the end. I want to give you the resources.
Okay.
Can I give the resources?
No, we do at the end, Claude. Let's first answer people's questions, and then we'll do it at the as the last.
Yeah, I have a small question about escalation clause in the real estate contract. When you want to buy a house, you find that it's maybe a good house, you don't want to lose it, and you give a best offer, you feel that it's the best offer. And then the agent tells you that you don't need to put too much as you are putting. Maybe he or she advises you to put like 50,000. But for you, you feel like you don't want to miss it. You say, I don't care even if I put 100,000. Then she tells you, do you know what? Just add an escalation clause so that if anyone gives a better offer, your clause will be protecting you at the end. But afterwards, you find that still that escalation clause is not working. The other person takes the house. So you wonder, does it work, or is it just something that is hanging in the contract?
That's Magnifique's question.
So escalation clause, usually what you're supposed to advise and what they teach us when we're learning about real estate is that if your client really wants the house, what you recommend to them is to bring their best offer forward. If this is your dream, you want to be here, bring the best that you can bring. So on the other hand, we want to be able to save you money, and we don't want you to spend at your max, so that when you're moving into the home, you still have something left to put furniture in the house and do whatever you need, remodeling or anything. So an escalation is just something to kind of help you so that you're not at your top. And it's hard sometimes, especially with competition. When we had like 20 people that were going for properties, a lot of people didn't have that money or didn't want to put that money down. So saying escalation helped where your money is still protected, but because you really, really love that house, we also put your max in there if someone bid over you. So if you had an escalation clause, that means that you put your most in that clause. So it's not that the agent recommended something bad, it was to save you money, and if someone bid over that escalation, which was your most, it's really not the agent, it's someone else just had more funding than you did.
Yeah, I can add on that. It has worked for me in the past, so probably your experience wasn't well. Sometimes it doesn't work, depending on how is your maximum is, but I think if the other side, they understand the escalation clause, to be included in the offer, it will work better for the buyer's side. The problem is that I've seen sometimes the seller doesn't understand the escalation clause. And if someone gives just a little bit more and they go with the one who give more without looking at the other one has accepted more than that. So it depends on how they understand, but escalation clause usually work best because they don't want you offer more than what you should be offering. That's why they put that keep being higher than the other offers. There is one question that someone asked while Faustin was asking, then I'll give to you, Pastor. Is a question about co-signing on a loan. And Serge, you're going to help us with this. Saying that how long does it take for if someone co-signed for someone else's loan for mortgage to be taken off from that loan? And how that will continue to affect while the person is still on that loan.
Yeah.
How does it affect the person?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question because I know a lot of us like to co-sign for people, which is not a bad thing. I think it's just important to understand. Yeah, well, it's important to understand how it affects you, right? Because if you're not looking to buy a house in 2 years, you could probably co-sign for someone and it won't necessarily affect you if you have a plan on how you're going to get off the loan, right? So generally speaking, when you buy a house, let's say you and your friend buy a house or your brother, a family member, you buy the house, you can refinance the loan after 6 months. So at 6 months, if you refinance the loan, you can take off whoever was co-signing, but we still have to go through the same approval process. We have to make sure the person who's going to be on the loan alone qualifies with the mortgage by themselves. So a lot of times that's not the case. So the way it affects the person co-signing is if they want to buy a house, let's say within a year they're like, hey, I want to buy a house as well, the lender will have to include that payment of the mortgage that they co-signed on in qualifying them. So if you make $6,000 a month and you're getting a mortgage for $2,500 a month, we also have to include that you're paying a $1,500 payment every month. But here's another caveat. So if you're able to show that for 12 months you have not been making that payment, so this is generally with FHA, so you're able to show that the mortgage has not been coming out of your account, but rather the main borrower, then we can omit it out of your monthly expenses. You're still on the loan, but it's not really affecting you because we're able to prove for 12 months. Yeah.
For how long is it going to be appearing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so in that situation, if the mortgages are paid off, it's a matter of documentation, right? So if we show documentation showing that, hey, you've satisfied your obligations with the loan, it's paid off, usually we get that through like the county documents and everything. If we show that, because I know sometimes it'll stay on your credit report, right? But if we're able to prove that it was paid off using, the documentation you get when you pay it off, which is the deed with no lender, then that shouldn't be an issue.
And you can also dispute this element on your credit history if it's still there. The dispute allows you go to the credit history, especially when a credit is paid off. And when you dispute, they will reach out to the lender, and the lender will be able to satisfy your request, and they can remove you, especially if they pay it off and you don't have any money owed to the lender. So that should be easy. But if you still owe the money, even if it's not coming out of your pocket, as Sergio was explaining, it's very hard for you to be dismissed from that loan as a cosigner.
Yeah, just for Kapapa's his question, when it comes to, let's say the loan has been paid off, it will still stay in the history of your credit. It will never go away. If they have to, they don't say that you owe any money,
Right.
but they show it's like you bought a house in the past and you paid it off, so it will still
It's
be there.
actually helpful to you.
And
What make, let me say, stress or upset to those people, let's say me, for example, when I go buy or take the mortgage, they will say, okay, prove us, bring the paper.
yes.
That to go again, from those people,
Yes. So, and that's why I want to emphasize about this. So we're in the church. I'm going to bring you, there are 2 verses here in Proverbs that discourage you from co-signing.
Yeah.
Because it comes with many risks.
It's a horrible
So
thing.
rather than co-signing, give a donation. Or take it as a loan, understanding that this, because when you're co-signing, you are taking that loan too. So it's your loan as well. Don't think it's someone else's loan, it's yours. So understand it, and knowing that the Bible also discourages.
Please come to me
there are
after
two-
this meeting. I'll explain how I was screwed with co-signing.
and I'll give you 2 verses. Go ahead, Jerry.
A third option could be is if you're interested in having another investment property, you take the loan out in your name and you allow them to pay you. It'll always stay in your name. They're just renters until they actually pay out the home off. Then you can transfer the title. Indeed.
So saying that you are qualified, you can take a loan on your own and become a lender to that person and they take the deed until they pay you off. So you have a loan on your side and you become a lender to the other person and you have the deed. He's able to purchase the house and you help him out, but he has to pay you to get the deed and then you can pay off your other loan. That's going to be an option that will help you. Pastor, go ahead.
I'm taking off in a few minutes.
nje numvishara umugozi twishizemo. So I know we have gone beyond our time.
Yes.
And I really want to thank these people who came with ideas, Magnifique, Serge, and Didier, and Claude, who's assisting them, and the you people. So, honestly, this is a class we should be taking. Even if we have our own homes, we still have no idea what we are going through and what we're going to. 2 things. I don't think they answered me the way I was not satisfied. I think I talked about investment. Investing means it's more than one house, more than 2 houses, if you want to invest in real estate. What's the difference between, especially in the loan mortgage? Maybe you have more money, you can help us. What's the difference between doing a property investment, like buying land and then you build more houses and then you sell them, and also flipping houses? I am confused about that.
Yeah. So I guess the best way to differentiate those 2 is one person is getting a house that's already built, working on it, doing either a major overhaul and fixing it up or doing just cosmetic stuff, but they're buying it at a lower price and then hoping to sell it at a profit. The other one is you're basically talking about development, right? Yeah. So you're buying land, you're having to get permits, and there's a lot more that goes into that because you're having to have basically the city approve you to be able to build something brand new. Now there's a lot of benefits from that, but you also need to really, really know what you're doing and have a good team because once you start, it's really hard to stop. You got to start with a plan and keep going. But it's a great idea, and I think people in our community should definitely get into that. But to flipping as opposed to Yeah, so I mean, you can do it, but really the thing that makes it hard for a lot of people is you need to have the land. You need to own the land first.
Right.
Well, and yeah, exactly. So you can get a loan on the land. Generally speaking, a lot of lenders don't even like to lend to someone who doesn't outright own the land. They want to see that, hey, you own this land and we can loan you money to develop it. But when you have a loan on it, sometimes it's harder. Now, how much of a loan, it depends. But generally speaking, that's how lenders look at it.
I understand Pastor Mutima is trying to talk about buildings and building, not a one home. So that requires a lot of capital. That requires, it's cash. No, you have to have your...
So yeah, let's just clarify it, because this could be a bigger question. It take very long and it take us probably off the track. When you're doing development, it's a process. You can get a loan for the land, but the lender need to know your plan. What is your purpose of buying that land? That's where things start. When you say, well, I want to build. Okay, you want to build. We'll give you a loan, and that's okay. Show us what you want to build. How profitable that will be. You have to work through a business plan, showing them what you're going to put on, how it's going to make money to be able to repay the loan that you're asking the bank to give you. If you are able to do that, which they'll ask you, go to the process of getting the engineer to come, the architect to come, to see if the lot is buildable, for how many houses, what are the plans. So it's a long process. It's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. It requires time. It requires other resources that you need to bring in the people. Like we're doing this church, we want to build up, we go to the architect, all of that. After we put all together, then we can go to the lender with a package. Here's what we want to do. And this is what we need in terms of money. And this is the down payment we have. And then if they see that it's something feasible, they'll fund you.
I did want to say something though. It's a little different, but it's important that generally when you're buying a house, I've seen this happen a few times, avoid cash. Because we have, as a lender, we have to be able to track the money, see where it started, where it went, and how it ended up with you. So I'll have borrowers who come and they're like, hey, I have $30,000 in cash and I want to deposit it in my account. Can we use that? You can't. It's impossible, because there's certain federal guidelines that are there to avoid money laundering. And so a lot of times in those situations, what I tell them is, hey, don't move money around on your account. Let's have a friend or whoever, a family member, gift you money, and that will be your down payment and your closing costs. But cash, let's avoid that. Thank you.
So my question was to you, how many properties you were going to develop? You mean multiple homes? Yeah, so when you do flipping homes, usually you're doing one project at a time. You got to manage it. You got to play the general contractor. So it's probably going to be less money that you would take out to do the flip. Plus, it's a pre-existing home, so they already know what it was generating before. They can look at the tax records and look at how it was assessed before. But again, with development, it's basically based off of your plans and how you develop it. Yeah, you got to do the infrastructure. You got to put the street in, transformers, sidewalks, lights, and that's even before you get to excavating each of those holes and start putting the home on it, and plans for each of those homes, and how much of the acreage that you buy is buildable and not wetlands and protected, species and so forth. So I just wanted to put that out.
No, it's possible for everyone. Because they were going to ask for those things.
My question was to the mortgage lender. Now, to you, we have a local you use as a mortgage lender here in Maine? Because we had the issues with the to take the mortgage with the people we don't know where they live. And sometimes we struggle with the payment. We needed a local mortgage lender. The other question was for the inspector. Could you tell us how much you charge to inspect the?
So I think the clarification for the question is asking, not you, but asking if you have some, because you work with many lenders.
Yeah.
Do you have some lenders that are based in Maine? And when it comes to loan servicing, that's where it's talking, after closing, that is being contacted from someone in California for the payment.
Okay.
He can't get his 1098 interest paper. They ask him, oh, your loan is servicing in Arizona.
Okay.
So you want to understand if you have someone here in Maine or local that you work with.
Okay, so and that's a good question actually, because I'm going to explain my work, how I come into play and everything. So my actual term is I'm a mortgage broker. So I work with wholesale lenders. So these lenders have much lower interest rates than Bank of America or Chase, but they don't work directly with the consumer. They work with brokers like me. So the benefit of that is you might say, hey, Serge, it's been a year, I bought my house, something's happening, I need help with, this document, or my payment's not going through. That's where you're going to have me, because we're going to keep in touch. You're not just, sure, you might have to talk to the lender who we got you approved through, but you're going to always have me to walk you through the process and say, hey, you're doing your taxes, how do I get this document? And I've had to do that. And I think that's the benefit you get with working with a broker, because it's more personalized. It's not like the bank where they say, hey, you qualify, here you go, we're done, we'll never talk to you again. It's more of a relationship for me. So, and again, to touch on something else, I'm not qualifying you with just one lender. One of the biggest lenders is United Wholesale Mortgage, right? But there's 6 other lenders that we can put you through and make sure that, you qualify. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Do you have other lenders that are Maine?
Yeah, so a lot the lenders that I work with do have offices in Maine. They have offices in every state, but you can't just go to their office, right? You can't go to their office and talk to them because they don't talk directly to the consumer. I work with them to make sure that you qualify. So every time you need anything, you're going to reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you're taken
They keep
care of.
secret so they know how to make money between themselves.
Now a question to Jerry. How much is $100?
So, single family or single family home. So my general price is $425, but that depends on whether you need a sewer scope, which is something I have another company do, because I don't do that. That's all they do. If you need a radon test, that's additional. So the general inspection would actually cover from the roof down to the basement or out your garage, the general stuff, water test. If there's a water test, that is additional because I have to send it to a lab. So it all depends on, would you be a first-time home buyer?
We borrow some houses and doesn't market without, they say if you do inspection, you are out.
Buy as is.
Oh, okay. So it was just a different market. So again, like you could do what I was saying though. After you close on it, you can come back. Are you trying to get tricky here? Funny guy over there.
So, Jerry, do you cover a bigger region or you have a certain region?
I usually do 50-mile radius of Portland, northeast, southwest, but I'll go out further if need be, because a lot of times I understand people don't have the option to find or have any availability for inspectors in those other areas. So depending on the situation, who I'm working with, a lot of times I'll bend those rules. That's the beauty of being your own boss. You can do what you want. So get that money.
Yeah. All right. Any last questions for anyone? Okay. So 2 questions.
Guys, we got to close. We overtime.
Okay, thank you. My question is how to know or where we can know the property you have is if is the investment or to know if it's investment or I have first home, I have a second home. Also, sometimes when they ask me, hey, your second home is investment, I say it's second home. I don't know if it's investment.
I don't know if you got a question. It's more about can you have a second home that is not an investment while you have your first home that you live in?
Yeah, so it could be your vacation home. But
in the same state, in the same city?
In the same state, but it has to be, I believe, 100 miles away.
How do you get rid of PMI so fast?
Let me finish the first question.
Yeah, okay.
But we got your question.
Yeah, so my answer was, you can have a second house that's not an investment, that is a vacation home. But again, to be able to qualify for it, if it's truly a second home, a vacation home, it should have been, I believe, 50 to 100 miles. But if it was closer, then it probably was purchased as an investment home.
So if someone says, I got the first home,
Mm-hmm.
the home that I was supposed to live in,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the conditions do not permit me to live there.
Yeah.
Now I'm buying a home where my condition is affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Can you still qualify to that?
To the primary residence requirements? Yeah, absolutely. So
it's a language.
yeah, we look at different things, right? Like I said earlier, if you're going from an 1,800 square foot home to a 1,500 square foot home, even if it's down the street, we're gonna look at it and say, why are you downgrading? So you
want improvement.
Yeah, you always want to be getting something that's the same or more, if you're moving out.
So the other thing, if you can, Serge, you can clarify the other question that he asked about the second home and vacation home, you called it. When you say vacation home, he never took vacation to go to live in the house. He's actually using it as an investment, but he calls it as a second home.
Yeah, so you're basically lying, right? So if you tell the lender that it's a vacation home, there's also a certain amount of days you can rent it, right?
Yes.
If you're renting it the whole year, then that's not really a vacation home. And so again, things like that, the lender might not find out, but you don't really want to be dabbling in those kind of situations, because once lenders basically deem you as someone who's doing fraud, they're going to tell everybody else, and no one's going to want to lend you money. So it's important to figure what you can do, but be very careful with mortgage fraud.
So last question that was asked by Faustin is how quickly you can get rid of PMI.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know PMI is the mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
That's you're required because you don't put 20% down.
Mhm.
They ask you to have the insurance for the lender.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because that's a very quick way to lower your monthly payment, right? So it depends. Again, it depends on how much your property has appreciated. So if you bought your property a year ago, 2 years ago, and it appreciated to where you have at least 20% equity, then you come to me and I refinance your loan to take off the PMI. Or something else you can do with certain lenders is you can call them and tell them, hey, usually with conventional loans, and let them know, hey, I have 20% equity, and they can usually just drop it off without you even refinancing your loan.
Except for FHA. FHA loans usually is permanent.
Yeah,
unless you refinance.
Yeah, FHA loans it's permanent,
Yeah.
but so you have to refinance. But if you have a conventional loan, sometimes they can take it off. It takes a lot of work, so some people are just like, hey, if I can get a lower interest rate, I might as well refinance my loan, and they'll see that my house is worth more, and then the PMI will come off.
Yeah, big hand of applause for this team, actually. We learned a lot tonight. So thank you for those who stayed, because it was more interesting and we kept asking more questions and learn more. But this is really great, and it couldn't happen without Magnifique preparing this, to be honest. She pushed me to get this actually happen, and to bring all of us together so that we can have this discussion and the benefit from it. You brought us a guest, and you brought us Serge too. I know Serge has to cancel his flight to make this happen tonight. So thank you so much, Serge. And I always personally be part of this community. I always feel proud when I see now we are building, we are having professionals, people we can trust, people who understand our culture, and who are ready we can call. Without doubt, they're going to tell us the truth. You just heard what Serge told you, which is different than what we had last year. You remember? We heard about so many things about, oh, you can still call your third home your primary residence, and they get along with that. He's telling us exactly what we can put ourselves into trouble if we're not careful. Those are the things we want to hear. So I'm really happy tonight, very happy, and pleased with the way that we discuss and learn. Claude has more information that he's going to share. You need to learn more about first home buyer, how to access some grant money to help you toward down payments, and financial literacy, and more. Claude will be able to help you through Prosperity Maine. So we have all the resources. Now we have another gentleman from the community who can help us with the inspection. Sometimes we have the inspection and we don't know even what are they doing. I usually used to push back on inspections myself. It's like, I know many things, so why need this? But it's good to bring the team together and discuss these issues on a regular basis. So thank you. And she's not just here as an agent to tell us, but please, we want to buy a house, work with Magnifique. Why would you go find someone else when Magnifique is there? If she said, if she can't, she'll bring someone in who can help you. So let us support each other as we grow in this professional way and be good investors and make more money and help each other. Actually, I just learned about another guy who's sitting there. He does improvement of properties. Yeah. Steve, and his cards is over there. So
look at what he has done in my house. The one I was living in.
Yeah. So this is great. This is really great if you can work with people that you know. He's not gonna cheat me because where is he gonna go if he cheats me? I'm just gonna get him. Understand? Yeah. So having people from the community that we can work together, it's a great thing.
But DJ, we want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Why do you think that, for me, he has worked in all my projects almost 2 years.
I didn't know him. I saw him on the papers, but I've never seen him. Yeah. Yeah.
How come that we don't ask?
He doesn't advertise.
No, Sunday. We are going to publish it.
Yeah.
This is our platform.
Yeah.
So, but we want to say this.
Yes.
Why do you think that we just want to keep going? Okay, we are all ourselves black people. Why do we have that mentality?
Because we're learning. Now we're learning, we're changing. And that's why we say we'll start supporting each other going forward and work together. So Claude's going to say probably...
Few words, because I'm late already on where I'm supposed to go.
Then Magnifique going to close.
So there is free money for people who are first home buyer. Just because you attend financial literacy at my organization, they will give you $5,000 toward, yes. Anybody, there is a new program, men housing, they call First Generation. That program is in partnership with the Prosperity Maine. So they ask you, if you attend our financial literacy class, we give you a certificate. They will give you $5,000 toward your closing cost. Yes. So second, if you attend a home buyer class at Avesta or CI or anybody, they give you another $5,000. So you could get a $10,000 toward down payment just right there without anything to pay back. It's a five weeks. No. It's only first home buyer. I said it's only for first home buyer. Yes? No. Thank you. Yes? The both. you can attend online. Again, as long as you have a certificate, Main Housing will ask you a certificate from Prosperity Main. And as long as you have it, whether you have a class online, whether you have in person, you will get the 5,000. And once you take the home buyer class, you get another 5,000. So you can get a 10,000 just like being in a classroom. They pay you to be in a classroom. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, Maggie, you can go.
So I just want to thank everybody for coming. I think that this event is something that is the beginning. It's not something that we're doing one and done. It's something that, you know, a lot of us got into the careers that we're in because we were trying to find a way to help our own community and how we can represent us in a different type of field than people didn't have knowledge of, you know, so that we can bring that knowledge to you guys. So, you know, we want to be able to have these discussions and continue to help you grow because, like I said earlier, this is something that a lot of people that were born here, they have that knowledge for a very long time. They're building their wealth, generational wealth for a long time. And we just want you guys to be able to have that knowledge so that if you need anything, if you're trying to build a portfolio, if you're trying to get ahead in life, if you're thinking of, you know, my kid's college fund, I see things online all the time where, you know, investors and people, they're not buying their kids, you know, fancy cars. They're buying them an investment property. Because that's something that it's going to accrue wealth for him. And then when they graduate college, you know, you have the funds from that property, which is going to pay off their college tuition. Now they don't have that debt, and they have this investment property that they can live in or rent out to their college buddies, you know, while they're living with you. And there's just these certain things that will help us eventually. If not right now, it's going to help the generations that you have coming. So I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you really got something from it. We enjoy stuff like this because that's why we do the work that we do, is to educate everybody. And so I want it to be something that's continuing. I wanted you guys to be able to contact us. Everyone's cards are there. If you just have a question, you know, that's what we're here for. We're building those relationships. And like Serge says, once it's closed, you're not going to lose us. We're still here, especially me. You see me on Sunday, you're going to find me. It's okay. I'm not hiding anywhere. So, you know, if there's a problem with anything, call and reach out to somebody. You know, that's why we're here. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't know that we can have some people who have experience in our church like this. I couldn't, but now I have to move that. So the Father knows how to. Let me just say thank you so much, all of you, because we took time to come over here and feel blessed. Let's pray together. Father, we thank you, Lord Jesus, for this time. We thank you that, God, you have blessed us. We have come and spent time to learn what we wanted to learn. And thank you that, God, you have made it safe. And thank you for Didier, also the moderator, who has helped us to make these questions. And even if we still have to learn more, Lord, bless us all together and give us more wisdom on how we have to do the work. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much.